Example 9, solving an equation graphically. We want to find the solution of the equation cosine of x is equal to x. Correct at 2 decimal places. So we're first going to use the TI graphing calculator, and then we'll use Desmos. We will see that Desmos might have a better, clearer picture to see what's going on, but it doesn't mean that you can't get this information from your Texas Instrument calculator either. So the first thing we want to do is, whenever we have an equation where it says cosine of x is equal to x, we want to find the intersection of that. And we can't put the equation in here. What we need to do is graph these separately. So the first thing we're going to do is graph the cosine of x, and then we're going to graph x. So now let's go ahead and graph that. Now it's graphing the cosine of x, and now it's graphing the value of the graph y equals x. So if we want to figure out where it intersects, we can select trace, and then it gives this little cursor, and then you can either scroll left or right. And then if we go back, it kind of stops at that point. Looks like x is 0.74. Looks like y is 0.74. Now, the window that was used here was -5, 5, -1.5, 1.5. Now, we might want to go a little bit more closer to see what's happening. So we also may want to change the scaling on the x-axis just so we can see what's happening. Gives us a clear idea of how to look at these graphs. So let's try 0 and 1. So 0 and then 1 here. And then we're going to try 0 and then 1 here, just to give us sort of this first quadrant. Okay, so this is 0 and 1. Now, if you look here, the scale for x is 1. And so, even though that we can trace to find out what that value is going to look like here, we still want to get a clearer picture of the graph. So we want to change our increments. So we're going to change our window again. And so what should we change our x min, x max, y max to be? Well, let's go ahead and do that again. We're going to leave it at 0, 1, and then 0, 1 for the min and the max. And then let's change the scale, the x scale, to 0.1. So let's go ahead and graph. So again, there is our intersection. And so this is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, and 0.8. So we already saw where the point was located, but it's in between 0.7 and 0.8. So maybe we need to change our window to be between 0.7 and 0.8 for both the y and the x. So we're going to put 0.7, 0.8, and then let's change the scale to 0.01. And then let's change the minimum for the y to be 0.7 and the y max to be 0.8. So now when we graph, now we can see that even a little bit more clear here. And so in this scenario, we're going to get 0.74 and then 0.74. So that's one way to be able to do that by using the TI-8384. Okay, so let's take a look at these graphs here. This is our graph. When we had our scale from -5 to 5, -1.5 to 1.5, and the scale was 1, we saw what this graph looked like. And then here, this allowed us to see the increments on the x-axis by changing the scale to 0.1. And we're going to have to do that a lot looking at certain graphs in this class. And then once we knew that it was between 0.7 and 0.8, then we changed our min and max to be that, so in order for us to find out what that solution is going to be. Now, if we use Desmos, it's going to automatically give us a clear picture and find out what that intersection is. So the two graphs that we were working with were the cosine of x and y equals x. Now, if you select that point, it automatically gives you the solution. Okay, so we already see that the solution to this graph, to this equation, is 0.74 and 0.74. Right now we have this at 0.5, negative 5, 5, negative 1.5, and 1.5. Okay, so and then we changed it to, I believe, 0 and then 1, and then this is 0 and then 1. Right, and then when we do that, if you see down below here and up here, right, if we look on the x-axis, we can see that the intersection is between 0.7 and 0.8. So we don't have to change the scale on Desmos, because once you change your minimum maximum, it's already given you sort of the scale already. It already does it for you. And same thing here on the y, it's between 0.7 and 0.8. Okay. And then if we wanted to go a little further and say, okay, well, we want to look at just 0.7 and 0.8, and 0.8. Let's see, I think we lost that graph. Cosine of x and x. So now we can see here that it gives us a closer picture. But we may not have to do that. We don't have to go through all three of those to be able to see that. But it's nice to see the scale for the y and the x-axis. So again, each graphing device is going to give you something different. But we determined that the solution, or the intersection, so the x value is 0.74 and the y value is 0.74.